Gamesci.com. Parameters and return values. Methods get input. The input to the methods are called parameters. There's a reason why I put the word input exactly below the word parameter. Parameters are input to the methods, values sent to the method so it can do its job. Return values. Return values are output of a method. Return values, if the method has a return type, in this case double, the return value is the value sent back from the method. Parameters and return values allow you to use your methods in much more flexible manner than without using parameters and return values. But the bottom line is this: parameters are input to the method so it can do its job. Return values are output from the method so it can call the calling code and tell it what happened. So let's trace the code. Let's do a real video game example this time. We want to calculate damage. We all know damage is related to the amount of armor the player has. If the player has a lot of armor, then a shot to it will do little damage. If the player has little armor, then a shot to that player will cause lots of damage. There's hundreds of different places in the code where I might need to calculate, well, how much damage did this occur? How much pain did this shot take? Well, that's a perfect place to use a method. Let's isolate the code to calculate how much damage occurs depending on the armor the person has in one spot. Therefore, if I ever want to adjust it, I only have to change it in one spot. Let's start with some initial values in the variable health of 93, in armor of 55, and in damage of 8. And let's trace the code and see what happens. First up on this line of code, I'm going to call calc damage. This is a call to the method calc damage. My current value of armor, which is 55, will be set to the variable arm. The first argument is assigned to the first parameter, and a 55 shows up in arm. The second argument, damage, is passed to the second parameter, damage. Ooh, what's that? The parameter has the same name as the argument? It's actually legal. Parameters are local variables, and local variables can have the same name as other variables. This local variable is only good inside here. When we're dealing with the parameter damage, we will be dealing with the value that passed from here. I myself prefer to name my parameters slightly different than what I pass to them, but it is perfectly legal, and you'll see it over and over again, to name your parameters with the same name as the variable being passed to them. What's more important is to understand the values. There was a value in this damage variable of 8, and it was passed and assigned to this damage variable, so we see an 8 showing up there. And again, based on the amount of armor, we want to adjust the amount of damage that occurs to the character in this video game. If arm is less than 10, if my armor percentage or my armor value is low, then I'm going to take a lot of damage when I take a hit. 55 less than 10 is a false statement, so I have a fair amount of armor. As a false statement, I will fall through to this next if statement and check it. 55 greater than 10 is very much a true statement. It looks like I have a medium amount of armor. I have a little bit of armor. What I want to do is calculate my damage at 50%. If I have a medium amount of armor and I take a shot, I don't take the full damage of the shot, but I do take some damage. I'm going to take the damage input, 8, which would have happened if I had no armor whatsoever, and cut it in half. By multiplying it by 5, I'm going to cut it in half. 8 times 5 is 4.0. So I'm saying with a medium amount of armor, and I take a shot that should do 8 points of damage, I should reduce that to 4 points of damage. More armor, less damage. Less armor, more damage. And that's what this code is trying to do. Medium armor, medium or half the damage should occur. This return statement, this output of the method, is going to return back a 4. My input was 8, but this method's calc damage decided I should cut that in half to 4. Well, 4 will be sent back to the calling routine. Well, see the arrow? The arrow is pointing to where we called calc damage. A 4 will be sent back to here. Our current value of health is 93. We subtract a 4, and after taking that shot with medium armor, it's decided that the health value should be updated to 89. Makes sense? That's a pure video game example. If you have no armor and you get shot, you should take full damage. If you have half armor and you take a shot, you should take half damage. Let's run it again and let's bump up the armor. Let's say we've been picking up a lot of armor and we shouldn't be taking a whole lot of damage when we get shot. We're going to run it again with new values in the variable for armor and new values in the variable damage. Damage could be different. It depends on what you get shot with. It depends on what hits your character. If you get hit with a pillow, the initial damage assessment should be low. If you get hit with a grenade, the damage assessment should be high. We're going to adjust just those two variables. Notice how health is still 89. We're trying to simulate this idea of we got hit a second time. What should our damage be? Let's call the method. The current value of armor, 92, will be passed to the parameter arm, and you can see the 92 shows up there. The current damage assessment of 10 will be sent to the parameter damage. Again, the parameter could have the same name as the variable that is passed to it. Do keep in mind these two variables are different. This local parameter damage is different than this variable damage. But the value 10 was transferred to that variable, so you see a 10 showing up. So I passed a 92 and a 10 to it. And let's see how this works. Well, 92 is a lot of armor. 92 less than 10 is a false statement, so I'm certainly not going to take full damage. So let's go down to the next if statement and test it. 92 less than 60 is still a false statement. I have more than a medium amount of armor, so I'm not going to take half damage on this hit. Fall down to this if statement, and it's 92 less than 95, which is a true statement. I have a lot of armor. I don't have full armor, but I have a lot. What I'm going to do on this is calculate a little damage. Remember, my input to damage was 10, but I have a large amount of armor, so I'm only going to assess myself 10% of that damage. I'm going to say, okay, when you take a shot that would have taken 10 from your health point, but you have a lot of armor, I'm only going to return a penalty or a damage assessment of 1. You see what happens? When you get shot with a lot of armor, it should do less damage, and it clearly is doing it. The 1 that got sent back from calc damage is subtracted from the current value of health, 89, and you can see even though I took a significant shot, because I had a lot of armor, I took very little damage. There's my new value, 88. Now, did this method make sense to you? If I have no armor, a shot should give me full damage. If I have an incredibly a lot armor, a shot should take no damage. But somewhere in between, I want various degrees of damage to take place on my character, depending on the amount of armor. GameSide.com